Hi, I'm Kathy from Stitch It Together, and I am continuing the series on the Dresden quilt block. Today, what I'm going to be showing you is how I designed for the Dresden Plate quilt. I finished over the weekend the blades and the center of the Dresden quilt block. For a refresher, let me go into PatternCAD, and this is the block. It's a whole quilt of these, the Dresden Plate. There are 20 blades. And to do a little quick math for you, if there's 360 degrees in a circle and there are 20 blades, then they're every 18 degrees. So that was important when I was designing this quilt. Let me now close out of this and show you what I ended up designing, and then I'll tell you how I did that. So I'm going to clear this image and bring back my grid. And I'm going to select the pattern that I did. This is what I'm going to be putting inside of those blocks. Let's go a little bit bigger here. There we go. And I'm going to remove the nodes. And I want to be clear, when I say remove the nodes, I'm not taking away the nodes. I'm just making them invisible. So I'm going to make the nodes invisible. And here we go. This is what I designed. It's going to have two pieces to it. So this outside with the flowers and the leaves, it is going to stitch out continuously. And then the center, it was going to have a jump stitch because the center point placement will be used for this one. It has a stop and a start that's in the center, and I will have to stitch that one out differently, separately. Now, I could have tried to find a way to join it, but overall, I decided this did not have 20 petals in it, so I would have had to done some strange joining together. It was just going to be easier to leave it as a separate pattern, and that's fine. I'm good with that. So let me show you how I did that. As you recall, I made a template by using that pattern or that picture that you just saw. Close out of this. I designed everything with that template. So I'm going to go to it. Templates, load. Here's the template that I made from that picture. The reason I turned this into a template is the picture was rather dark, and I was concerned I wasn't really going to be able to see what I was working on. So making the template was very helpful. Also, it proved to me very clearly by making the template from that these blades are not perfectly consistent. So that was a design consideration as I was going through this whole process. So one of the first things that I did was I looked at other people's patterns, not to copy them, to say, hey, what are my choices? What are people doing? Do they come as a blade? Do I'm going to have to just design one blade and place every single blade? And FYI, they do come that way. But I was like, oh, they also come when they're the whole circle. And I'm thinking, I don't think I want to place every single blade. So if I'm going to design something, I think I want it to be a whole pattern, or if it wouldn't fit in my throat space, maybe half of the Dresden plate at a time. One of those two things. Mine should fit in my whole throat space. So that's what I did as a design. However, I had a thought when I was looking at other people's things that when they were designing, many of them that were designing for point to point, or when you're going to just place one petal at a time, they did their design so that there was a start on the left and a stop on the right. And that was a reminder to me, yes, if I want to do where I can copy and paste, which would be much faster, I want to start the design with that in mind, that I'm going to have to put a start on the left and a stop on the right. So that was in my mind when I started looking at patterns. The other thing that I looked at is like, what kind of patterns do people use? They used all kinds, by the way. Circles and squares and diamonds and geometric and flowers and you name it. There are all kinds of different designs. And the ones that I gravitated towards because of the fabrics that are used in this particular quilt were flowers. And as luck would have it, I had just picked a picture that was free online of some doodling. Someone else had done a whole page of flowers. And so let me see if I can find it. I had used this for my PatternCAD class, and I thought, oh, well, these I think will work. So these are all flowers that kind of have this kind of shape, this arc shape. right here. There were several that I could have used to do that. And ultimately, because of the fabrics that were in this, I chose this one. So what I did was I cropped this out, and then I brought this particular flower into PatternCAD, and I traced it. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to get rid of that background. I'm going to bring back my grid, and I'll show you the flower that I traced. Here's that individual flower. Now, right away, I did not add the flower that I traced, add a portion that was like a hook down here. And I chose not to trace that portion of it because I started to try and draw this shape with the left and a right stop point, which was not going to be easy. This one doesn't have it. So in the real pattern that I eventually drew, I'm going to do this just for a second. How do I want to do this? I'll just shrink it. I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to go to size. And even though you cannot see my nodes, they are selected when I say select all. I'm going to lock the ratio, and I'm just going to shrink a little bit so that it's not right on top of this one. And if I could get inside of the circle, you'll see what I'm talking about. So when I drew this one, it was more faithful to the picture. And I did try to start on the left and end on the right. But what I realized is that it wasn't going to work very well to do that. So in the final pattern, I had to create a line that kind of went from here and swooped across this way and then back up to the right. So I'll show you what the actual blade looks like. But I started with this pattern right here, and then I'm just going to continue to shrink it down. So I wanted it to fit right up here. So that's what I did. I shrank it down. So it looks something like this. I brought it up so it was comfortably in there. All right, so then I put this behind or on the lower level, on the lower layer, so that I could draw on top of it and fill in this space right here. Because what I realized is, hey, I can probably draw a spline and then some leaves through here that will fill up that space. And that is what I did. And I did not know that before I shrank it. I just kind of was going with the flow, and I didn't know that's what I was going to do until I actually did it. So I'm going to move this flower. Oops. I thought I was going to move this flower. Undo. I'm just going to put it down to the next layer. So I'm going to swap layers. So now I can't edit it. I'm going to get the thing that I actually did draw. So let me get the next pattern. This is the flower that I drew, or the leaf. Let me shrink it so you can see that it fits in there. So I'm going to say select all. I'm going to say size, and it's locked, so I'm just going to shrink it. Again, what I did to draw this was this exactly what I have right here. I had my template, which is on the very bottom level that I cannot make any modifications to. And then I had the initial drawing of the flower, and I put that at the bottom layer so I can see it, but I don't do any changes to it. And then I started drawing on top of it to fill in the whole blade. In the end, it looks something like this. I'm going to size it up a little bit more. So it did fill it up a little bit better. Here you go. So ultimately, it looked maybe a little smaller than that. It looked something, there we go, something more like this, where I had a start on the left right here and a stop on the right here. And then what I proceeded to do was to use this function right here called copy. So while you can't see it, again, my nodes have disappeared, they're not gone. In order to copy and paste, you need to make sure that your nodes are selected. So with everything selected, again, I'm going to turn them off just so you can see now. I said copy, that's right here. So it copies your pattern, whatever you've selected, and then I needed to rotate. So I'm going to go to rotate, and I want my pattern is going to have to go in this direction because the start is right here and the stop is right here. So for the next pattern, I need to do the start right here and the stop right here. So I need to go in the clockwise direction. So I need to reverse this. So I said reverse, and I need to make sure that it's rotated 18 degrees. So I went 15, 16, 17, 18. So it's rotated 18 degrees, and I just did my very best to place it inside of that block. Now, my stop and my starts were not going to be perfect, but my block isn't perfect either. So I did not sweat too much over whether they're completely placed or not, because what I decided to do, these are very printed blocks anyway, so a lot of this quilting is not going to show. So I'm not going to worry like I would if it was in a solid. So what I'm going to do before I start to go any further is I would go to optimize. And so this is a break right here. It was probably just something where I lifted a pen or something and it didn't join, or QCT sometimes unjoins things. So, but there are no jump stitches. You don't see any blue lines. So I am, even where it's right here, you don't even see a blue line. It's just a break in the pattern. So it's just, instead of sweating it, I just said, remove all. That's all I was going to do, is just remove all. You're probably not going to see this little, this unsightly line anyway. So I'm not going to sweat over whether it's pretty or not. So I said, okay. Then I pasted until I had 5 is what I did. And I optimized in between. Then I copied 5 because 5 is a quarter. If there are 20 blocks, a quarter of those blocks would be 5. I copied and pasted all 5 together that had no breaks in them, and just copied and pasted until I had the whole entire circle. So what does that look like? I think I showed you once, but we'll do it again. So let's go to this layer. I'm going to remove this layer, swap layers, delete it. Let me get the pattern, the whole thing. So when I was done, I had just this. There we go. And just like with this block right here, see how some of it is extending past where I would really want the stitching to be, but in other blocks, it's fitting perfectly. The reason that I am okay with this is that I'm going to have a challenge to get it to fit into every Dresden plate anyway. So this is what my plan is going to be. I am going to place this block and I'm going to place the circle at the same time. There's going to be another video. I'm going to use PatternCAD to do this and select and sew. So what will happen is I will go into select and sew, and I will use the marking tool and select and sew. And then I will directly come into PatternCAD, and then I will pull up the patterns and place the patterns. So one of the reasons that I want to do that is because I am unable to use this cool feature when I'm in select and sew. And it is a transform group feature. Let me show you how I'm going to use that. So with this already placed, as best I can get it, I'm going to turn my nodes on so you can see that nothing is selected. So I do want to say select all. I'm going to turn the nodes off so I can see what I'm doing. And now I'm going to say transform group, and a box is going to surround my pattern. So then these selections come up too. You have stretch. Stretch has handles for you to shape just the center of the box. Then you have skew. This one only has your corners. And then you have warp that has all kinds of locations. And that's the one that I'm going to use when I'm starting to place this inside of PatternCAD. Because what I'm going to be able to do with that, so I'm going to move my zoom box here, is each one of these nodes, the round ones and the squared ones, will allow me to push in or pull out this pattern just kind of in that area. So in this section right here, where it's outside of the pattern, and yet down here it's in there perfectly, I'm going to left click on this node right here, and I'm just going to push it in a little bit. Oh, and look at that. Now it's perfect. I couldn't ask for better than that. So now, if I wanted to work on this one, I could do that, but it's going to affect this one right here and this one right here. So, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to see if I can't get this one to warp down just a little bit. So I'm left clicking on that block, and it did. But the cost was that it is inside on this one. And I think I'd be all right with that. The other thing that I could do would be go to switch to stretch. And now this one is just in the center. And I might be able to just push that one down a little teeny weeny bit. And I would just work with it until I was get to where you can live with it. I might then switch back to warp. Can see, okay, well, now can I just bring these up a little bit? And these out a little bit? Maybe back in just a little teeny weeny bit. But you see where I'm going with this. I'm going to have to work with it, but these are options that I do not have when I'm inside of Select and Sew. So when I'm done with this one right here, placing this one as best as I think I can get it, I'm going to bring it to the bottom layers. I'm going to say swap layers, and I'm going to get this pattern. This is the one for the center. I'm going to say open, and I'm going to need to shrink it down. And I will actually save this pattern when I'm inside of Select and Sew at close to the right size, so I don't have to shrink it every single time. But for your purposes, I'm just going to say select all, and then I'm going to go size, and I'm making sure that this is locked. I'm going to decrease the size until it gets right inside where I'm happy with it. And I'd say I'm probably happy with that, just the way it is. And now, so that I don't have to come back and forth between both of these places, I'm going to now bring this layer back up to the top, say layers. I'm going to go merge the bottom layer up to the top. I don't want to have extra copies, so that's the safest way to do it. Now, both of these patterns are placed, and I'm going to say quilt. And it's going to tell me that I'm going to need to save it as something special. I've been practicing a whole lot, so I'm just going to save over the top of the one that I've been working with, and that is experiment right here. I'm going to say save, and it's going to open back up into Select and Sew. Okay, I'm just saying my safe area. There we are. We're into Select and Sew. And so even though it looks like it's not placed, it is. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to say quilt. It's going to give me a message. The pattern has not been placed. Do you wish to proceed? And I am going to say yes, because even though I didn't place it in Select and Sew, I actually placed this inside of PatternCAD. So I'm going to say yes. So now I would have a jump stitch. That's okay. That's my expectation. This is now going to stitch out. I pull the bobbin, and this outside is going to stitch, and then I'll have a jump stitch, and the inside is going to stitch. So that is my plan. If you're interested in what I'm going to be doing in the background, I've decided I'm not going to make a frame, that I'm going to use pattern eclipse, and I'm going to use a pattern that I purchased that is related to the borders that I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to use pattern eclipse to go around the Dresden plate and just place the blocks. And that was more a function of I don't have time to design another full pattern for the frame. And also, every time I have to place something, it adds more and more time to what I'm going to do. So I felt like this was going to be take a lot of time, and I didn't want to add any more to it. So that's probably the best way for me to do it. So again, the procedure for making the pattern was that I made a template, and then I traced other shapes that I was going to use, and then I combined them all in PatternCAD and placed them on the bottom layer, and then traced over the top of that to get one blade. Then I copied and pasted using rotation at 18 degrees to get a full circle. Then I found a pattern. I didn't actually make this one my own. I believe it's just in blocks, right in one of the grace folders. And I found one so I didn't have to draw another pattern. And I'm using that one for the center. And that's how I did all this. And make sure you save your work. So I hope this is helpful. I'm Kathy from Stitch It Together. Have a great day. Happy quilting.